In May of 2010, a young man graduated high school and continued on to apply to take advantage of opportunities with Job Corps. After the application process, the young man was accepted to the program on the terms that he had to cut his hair due to it being viewed as unprofessional. The young man refused to cut his hair, and because of that, he was forbid the opportunity. That young man is my older brother, and this is not the only time that he's been met with this situation. Unfortunately, this happens to people of color all around the United States and has stopped the advancement of many careers. There are even instances of this type of discrimination with children who are still in grade school. After reading multiple articles, I found that hair discrimination can be quite damaging to an individual. Not only does the person have to deal with loss of opportunity, but alienation and overall loss of respect. Companies should not be able to deny people of color professional job opportunities due to their natural hairstyles being deemed as unprofessional. I'll be discussing some of the problems that hair discrimination causes to an affected group of people. I'll discuss the type of discrimination. I'll discuss where this type of discrimination stems from and also why companies feel they need to implement these types of policies. I will also present some information about what can happen in order to correct the issue. Let's start by talking about the problems that this type of discrimination causes for people of color. People of color have been being turned down due to their natural hair and protective styles for the longest. In no way, shape, or form does the style of a person's hair affect their work ethic or determine the type of asset they may be to a company. According to a 2018 article by LDF, in May of 2010, Chastity C. Jones applied to work as a customer service representative for Catastrophe Management Solutions, an Alabama company. Ms. Jones wore short dreadlocks throughout the interview process, and CMS hired her on the spot. Nevertheless, Ms. Jones refused CMS Human Resource Manager's request to cut her dreadlocks. CMS then rescinded her offer of employment. Mrs. Jones' case is an example of racial discrimination that endures in the modern workplace and the devastating consequences of racial stereotyping. Information from this same source shows that in 2016, an 11th Circuit panel ruled that this type of discrimination is in fact legal. Policies like the one above force people of color not only to devote a great amount of time into making their hair acceptable for companies, but also forcing them to pour out funds towards treatments and methods that are not suitable for African hair textures, and they stress the hair. These factors would only affect people of color, meaning that the policy is not equal at all. Next, let's discuss where this hair discrimination actually stems from and the reason that companies feel they need to implement these types of policies. This type of discrimination is not new, and it actually is very common in the African American community. Per a 2021 article published by Walden University, the dehumanization of black hair in America can be traced back to slavery, when slave traders captured and shaved the heads of Africans, robbing them of their culture and identity. Though it is not to the same extent, this is still happening today. Now people of color are being forced to do it to themselves. This is what race discrimination looks like currently. Instead of targeting a race or culture directly, a company or corporation would indirectly target by including characteristics that would normally only apply to a specific culture of people. In the case of Chastity Jones, which we spoke of earlier, a facially neutral grooming policy was used to implement the company's preference for hairstyle and texture. Employers use these facially neutral grooming policies to ensure that the company is portrayed in a manner that is completely professional. The goal is to make sure that the culture of the company stays at a certain level when it comes to professionalism and morale. The more traditional or white collar the culture, and the more employees make connections with people outside of the company, the more important it is to the employers to have a policy that controls and restricts employee grooming. The issue with these policies is that they tend to use descriptions like hair should be combed, neatly arranged, trimmed, and tamed. Non-traditional and unkept is not permittable. Curly, kinky, textured hair cannot always be neatly arranged and tamed. The ways that people of color used to manage their hair in natural, non-stressful ways are considered non-traditional to businesses, but are considered culture to people of color. Finally, let's discuss a possible solution for the issue. The main goal here is to achieve a more equal standard across the board when it comes to job opportunities and the policies that come along with them. After doing my research, I found that there are ways to do so. It will help people of color and at the same time draw zero negative effects to any other race or culture. My proposed solution is the Crown Coalition. According to 2020 article by D. Sharman Afrin, the Crown Coalition is an alliance of organizations that are dedicated to the advancement of anti-discrimination legislation. CROWN stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair and is a law that prohibits discrimination based on the style and hair texture. This movement has a simple goal, which is to remove the narrow beauty standards that make it hard for people of color to establish and advance in careers. Today, I've discussed with you the problems that the type of discrimination causes certain individuals, where this discrimination stems from, and why companies feel they need these policies. And I've also presented a solution that I believe fits well for this situation. I know sometimes it's hard to see the issue if you're not being affected by the situation, but I urge you to take action. I'm sure that you all have a friend that is a person of color. Wouldn't you want to be a factor in a positive change so that they'll never have to be subjected to this type of discrimination? There is a wonderful petition on the Dove website that you can sign in order to support this cause and help make a change. I've done my part and signed the petition, and I feel confident and enthused about the fact that I can be a part of this movement. Let's be the change, even if it doesn't affect us personally.